Okay, open up your Bibles, if you would, to Genesis chapter 27. Genesis 27. This is a chapter we know well. This is where Jacob and Rebekah deceive Isaac, and Esau loses his blessing. We probably won't read through all of this, but when we open it up in verses 1 through 4, we learn that Isaac is getting a little bit older, and he's not seeing as well. He's beginning to get worried, I think, that he's going to die soon, although we don't know when. I don't think we know exactly how old he is when he passes. But he thinks it's going to happen soon, but I don't think it is. I think he's got another 15 or 20 years to go. But he wants to bless Esau. So he asks Esau to come in, tells him to go hunt some game and make some of that savory dish he loves so much. And when he comes back with that savory dish, he tells Esau, "I'm going to bless you." And so Esau heads out to go hunt for game. Now, who is listening behind curtain number 1? Rebekah. Now, Isaac and Rebekah seem to have a pretty good relationship, and it surprises me that she will do what she does here behind Isaac's back to deceive him in such a way. Now, we do know they have their favorites, don't they? Jacob. Isaac's favorite is Esau, and Rebekah's favorite is Jacob. And you remember what happened over in chapter 25 when Rebekah was pregnant, but she didn't know she had twins. They were moving a lot, and so she inquired of the Lord, right? And what did God tell her was happening in her stomach? 2 nations. What were the nations doing? Struggling. What else was the second part of that? The older will serve the younger. And so she's probably, I'm sure she's got that in her mind. And I'm assuming she tells Isaac this. Surely she tells Isaac this. Maybe they had discussions about it. And maybe Isaac was thinking, I want to give it to my firstborn. That's the culture. That's the way we do things. And that's what I'm going to do. Whether he knows this or not, I don't know. Maybe she kept that from him too. I have a hard time believing that she would not told him what the Lord told her after she inquired of the Lord. So she hears what's going on. So she goes and gets Jacob, and she tells him, now look, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go out there, or you're going to go get 2 little kid goats. I'm going to make a savory dish that he likes that tastes just like it. That's pretty amazing. If you've ever had goat, it's got a distinctive taste. I love it. That she can take those things and make it taste like this gamey food that Esau is going to go kill and make. That's a pretty good cook, so she's going to do that. And Jacob gets a little nervous. He's like, well, wait a minute. What if? He starts listing all these possibilities. What if he smells me? I don't smell anything like him. So, I got Esau's best clothes right here in the house. I'm going to put those on you. Well, what if he feels me out? I'm fair-skinned, soft, smooth skin, and he's hairy. Well, I'm going to take the skins of these kid goats. I'm going to put them on your arms, put them on the back of your neck. So she's really thinking this through. And he doesn't see well. That's very devious. What should she have done? Well, if she hadn't told him, right? Or just let it be in God's hands. Or inquire of the Lord. She doesn't do any of these things. Neither does Jacob. And so he goes out, does all of these things that she requested. And she doesn't request in verse 8. She says, now therefore, my son, listen to me as I command you. So it's pretty forceful. He's not a young kid anymore. He's much older now. So it's like she's telling him, do what I say. I'm going to help you out here. And so she goes out and does all these things. She said, comes back, she makes the dish, gives it to him. Verse 18. Then he, Jacob, came to his father and said, my father. And he said, he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Get up, please. Sit and eat of my game, that you may bless me. Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have it so quickly, my son? So what is he surprised about? Yeah, you went out there, you found the game, you killed it, skinned it, bled it, carved off the pieces you want, made the dish, and got it back so quickly. How did you do that so fast? Pretty amazing. So he's a little already, Isaac's like, it's a little fishy, I don't know. So, and Jacob said, because the Lord your God caused it to happen to me. Oh, man. He brings God into this, saying that the Lord made this happen. What a deception. What a lie this is. Well, you think the Lord made that game, helped him go find that game and kill it? I don't think deception was part of God's plan, but I do think God allowed it to happen. We'll get to that in a moment, but I don't think he would approve the deceptions. So, verse 21, Isaac said to Jacob, please come close that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So he's not buying it. This doesn't feel right. So Jacob came close to Isaac, his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him, and he said, are you really my son Esau? And he said, I am. Okay. So I'm sure Jacob was trying to sound like his brother, but it wasn't working well. And Isaac caught it. That sounds like Jacob. But he must not see well at all. And he feels him, and he feels the hairy goat. I guess Esau must have been very hairy for that to be what he needed. And he gets closer, and he even vocalizes that it sounds like Jacob. And so, verse 25, he said, bring it to me, and I will eat of it. Eat of my son's game, that I may bless you. And he brought it to him, and he ate. He also brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, please come close and kiss me, my son. So he came close and kissed him, and when he smelled the smell of his garments, he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field, which the Lord has blessed. So Rebekah really thought things through, didn't she? Even put on the garment so he would smell like his brother. And here's the blessing in verses 28 and 29. Now may God give you the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth and an abundance of grain and new wine. May people serve you and nations bow down to you. Be master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you. All right, what's interesting about this blessing? I'm sorry? It is. He does, one thing he does is, if you notice there, before he gets into the blessing, where he says, see, the smell of my son, it is like the smell of the field which the Lord has blessed. And the Lord is all caps. He's using the Yahweh term. But when he begins the blessing, he uses the Elohim term. And in the other blessings, it's Lord, it's the Yahweh term. So a lot of the commentators think that Isaac was wavering a little bit about giving the blessing. He's very unsure, and it's a pretty short blessing. But I'm looking at master of your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. It's plural. What does that mean? Okay, yeah, more than one. Now, is it that they had more sons and daughters other than Jacob and Esau, or could it be something else? Yeah, it's like Jesus was called the son of David and the son of Abraham. And so all the sons that are going to come from Esau are going to bow down to Jacob. And so that's the blessing. And the Lord is going to bless them from the land, and he's going to give the fatness of it. And does that come to pass? What did I say? Oh, sorry, he deceived me too. But yeah, it's going to be Jacob. Does that come to pass? Yeah, he gets it. Boy, when he goes up there with Laban, he gets a lot of flocks. He's very blessed in all these things. I think it goes on for almost 33 years of blessings. And then what happens? 33 years from here, what happens? Something very significant. He loses just about everything. It's the famine. The 7 years of famine. He gets 2 years into that famine. And when they discover where Joseph is, how much of his household goes down to Egypt? How many people? 70. 70, that's it. They didn't bring much because they lost it all in the famine. After, when they all come, they come to Egypt when everything's discovered there at the very end. And when Pharaoh is introduced to Jacob, and Pharaoh asks Jacob, how old are you? How many years are you? And he tells him 135 years. What does he say about that? Where is that found at? Is that the 47? Did I write it down? 47. Yeah, I did. 47 verse 9. So Jacob said to Pharaoh, "The years of my sojourning are 130. Few and unpleasant have been the years of my life." Unpleasant have been the years of my life. Somebody have a different word than unpleasant? There in verse 9. Chapter 47. Yeah. And that's the literal Hebrew term there. Evil. I've always wondered about that. How did he mean that? I can only come up with two possibilities. Either he did not enjoy life at all, and he thinks life was evil upon him, or, and I lean more towards the second one, is that he, now in his older age, he looks back and he recognizes all the mistakes and bad decisions he has made. How good were his kids? Bad. Yeah, 10 were bad and 2 were good. Yeah, and Judah, who's not the firstborn, but will end up with the first blessing, the Lord, when he had his first kid, the Lord killed him because his first child was so evil. And then the second one, when he gave the second one to his older brother's wife, he didn't do what he was supposed to, and the Lord took him too. And we know how that plays out. We'll get to it later, but that's going to be the line of David, and the seed line will come in that way. It's very interesting, but he had a rough life, and he made a lot of bad decisions. And I think he looked back and recognized that. And I wonder if he thought, well, maybe that's why I'm not going to have as many years as my fathers. Well, yeah. He didn't. Do you think, yeah, the two wives had a tension with that because he didn't want Leah. He wanted Rachel. He ended up having to stay there another 7 years. And then even with the two wives, it was just constant tension between the two. And it was not what he was looking for, that's for sure. So, 108? Jacob? or Isaac. Isaac, 100, that's right. Yeah, 180. And Jacob won't live nearly that long. So we're seeing this progression from Abraham that they're already going downhill. I almost wonder, and this is speculation, because of Isaac and the way his children are, that's why they get sent to Egypt. Because what was it that Abraham did not want Isaac to do? Yeah, and outside, but he didn't want him to go up there either. He wanted him to stay in the promised land. Don't leave. And he was told not to go to Egypt. And I think that mentality was passed on to Jacob. He didn't get to see his mother and his father pass away. He was with Laban the whole time. And he comes back, things seem to get better, but then he has to leave. He goes to Egypt, and he dies in a foreign land, in another land. He doesn't get to see the promise. He doesn't get to be in the land of promise when he dies. And life doesn't go grand for him, really. And maybe because he made a lot of bad decisions. So back to chapter 27. So he blesses him. Jacob gets up and leaves. And as soon as he leaves, has hardly gone from the presence of Isaac, his father, Esau comes in. Dad, I got your savory dish. And when he realizes what had happened, Isaac shakes violently. He's very upset. And he knows who stole it. He mentions that it was Jacob that stole the blessing. Who else could it be? Now let's step back from this. The blessing was taken by deception. Why couldn't Isaac just revoke it? But it was just words. Pray to the Lord, right? If it was me, I would have said, well, I want to curse that guy for that. I want to give that blessings to Esau. But he doesn't. What does he give Esau? A curse. A curse with a caveat at the end. We'll go ahead and we'll read that one. When he begs his father for a blessing, verse 39, Isaac, his father, answered and said to him, Behold, away from the fertility of the earth shall be your dwelling, and away from the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and your brother you shall serve. But it shall come about, when you become restless, that you will break his yoke from your neck. There's the caveat. And we'll come to that here in a moment. So, we were talking a little bit about God telling Rebekah what was happening in her womb, 2 nations, and the older will serve the younger. Did God plan and create this situation to come about? Or do you think he just allowed it to happen? Because he knew what would happen. And that's why he answered Rebekah the way he did. That's what I think. I don't think God made these things. I wasn't thinking, well, I want to make this happen. I want to push him in this way. I think he knew what was going to happen. He told her what was going to happen, which spawned her reaction to what was going to happen with Esau. And I think it all comes down to the way both of them lived their lives. What did Esau think about his birthright? Remember when we looked at that the other day? Couldn't have cared less. And Isaac was rich. He could have got food anywhere, but not sold his birthright to get some soup right there from Jacob. And it just shows how he could have cared less about it. And I think God was thinking, okay, fine. You want to treat it that way? I'll give it to Jacob. He's going to deceive your father and take it. I'm going to let that happen. And I want to give it to him. And Jacob, you want to be a liar and deceive people? I want to send you up to Laban. I want to let you see what that's like as you live up there with him. And then we see how his children are when they begin to grow up and how they treat other people and their attitude. It's not good. Bad people. And we'll examine that as we get further along. And so he gives them that blessing. Then he gives them that caveat that you will break his yoke from your neck. So what nation of people come from Esau? The Edomites. When do they break the yoke off their neck? You know, or we don't talk about that much. I had to go look it up. I did some reading. It's over there in 2 Kings chapter 8. They gained their independence when they revolt against King Joram. Do you know who Joram was? That was the son of Ahab. Son of Ahab was coming down to try to force the Edomites to pay tribute, and they ran them out. They ran them out, and from that day forward, they kept their independence. They established their own king, and they threw off the yoke of the Israelites from that day forward. So interesting things that all occurred. A lot of things happen in that one chapter, and there at the end, the first 40, where they throw off Joram. Interesting. And so he gets that blessing, and how does Esau react to his little curse? I am going to kill Jacob. My dad's not long for this earth. I'm going to kill him. And Rebekah believed it. And she was worried that she might lose both sons, because she knew that if Esau killed Jacob, it wouldn't be long before somebody on Jacob's side would come and kill Esau, and she would lose both her sons. So she tells Isaac, or her husband, well, I don't want Jacob marrying girls like Esau did. Let's send him away to my brother Laban, and he can pick a wife up there. And Isaac was like, oh, that's a good idea. So he sends him away, and we'll pick that up in chapter 28 when Esau sees that they didn't like his wife, so he goes out to try to rectify it and marry some other girls to try to appease his parents, and creates more grief after that. What do we learn from that chapter? Family's messy. Isaac and Rebekah had been doing so well. What did they neglect to do in that chapter? Trust in the Lord. Inquire of the Lord. They've done it before.
That's almost a replay of Sarah.
Yeah. And they just doing our own way. I wonder if Rebekah was thinking, well, the Lord did say that the older would serve the younger. I'm going to make that happen. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Esau brings that up. He goes, is his name not usurper? Like killing. And so, and Rebekah, it worked for her. She did it her way, and as a result, it tore the family apart. And she'll never see her favorite son again. Tore the family apart. Well, that was terrible. Should have left it in the hands of the Lord. But God knew what she would do, and that's why he said, you got two nations struggling. And you're going to have struggles, and from that here on out, pretty much. And she made it happen. Don't lie. Don't lie. It never helps the situation. It makes it so much worse. It always seems like the easy way out, but it creates so many problems. And Jacob is going to struggle with that, lying, all through his life. He will continue to have that issue. It's hard to get out of that rut once you start building it. But interesting chapter. Isaac and Rebekah they do such a good job throughout their whole lives, but they make mistakes here, favoring certain sons, deceiving not only each other, or not only, but they're deceiving each other. I think that Jacob had to know what Rebekah was told by the Lord, and he chose just to do what he wanted to do. And she just decided, well, she's going to make it happen, so she goes behind her husband's back. On and on and on, built on top of each other, tore them apart. So
Did you say how old he was here?
Who's that? Isaac?
Isaac.
I did not. It only says that he's blind. There's supposition that he's not as far along to death as he thinks he is. Some thinks he still has another 15 or 20 years before he passes on. That he lives 180. Over there in chapter 38. So that's how long he'll live. We don't know how old he is here. But we do know that Jacob will be about 20, did I say 22? Yeah, 22 years up there with Laban. So he'll be up there for a while because you got the 14 years, and then he begs him to stay a little while longer, and he does the thing with the sheep and the spotted sheep.
He's mad about Jacob is leaving now because he's also dead. He's up there 20 years.
22 years.
So so you're saying that Isaac is further along, so he's like 107.
Yeah, so we're in there. But I don't know. I didn't say how old I thought he was, but I'd say he'd have about 15 or 20 years left. Yeah, he got about 15, 20 years left because he would die before Jacob comes back. No, he doesn't die before he dies. Jacob's there. Oh, okay. So Jacob was back. I got that wrong. Okay. Well, thank you for correcting that. All right. So he had a lot of years left. He over 22 years before he was going to die. Yeah, I think that's probably what it was. He's blind. He was just worried that it's coming. Could you,
Like 158, probably maybe a little bit younger.
yeah. It's funny to say maybe a little bit younger, 158. But, he couldn't see. He's going to live a long time without that sight. Yeah, he had a wife he could trust. Oh, wait.
When it says that he struggled violently, he
Yeah.
figured out what happened. He was
Not happy.
Yeah. And then did you notice that Esau said, my older brother betrayed me?
Twice. Yeah, there's a lot of talk. I don't know. That's a hard one because is there a difference, and Jenny and I talked about this, is there a difference between the birthright and the blessing?
There seems to be.
Well, with them, but everywhere else they seem to be one and the same. Well, that's another thing I've been researching is I tried to figure out, did Jacob receive the birthright? The text doesn't say anything, but he tries to give things to Esau. Esau says he doesn't need anything. And Jacob is really well off. I wouldn't be surprised if Esau ended up with everything from Isaac. And we don't see Jacob receiving anything from him, or vice versa. I don't know. It doesn't look like it. You think, well, I don't know. The text doesn't tell us, except where we. I'm sorry? Oh, that's true. We don't know. Yeah, the text doesn't tell us. But we do know Esau lets go of the grudge. Rebecca was right. After 22 years, he let it go.
Well, wait a minute. I thought that's exactly what he said. I thought that Esau said, didn't you deserve a blessing from me? He said, no, I didn't.
No, we're saying that the Lord still blesses Esau and that he gets well taken care of there. And the blessing doesn't have to necessarily affect him right away. We know that the blessing for Esau will affect his nation. Then when they go down to the Edomites, they'll be just a warring clan pretty much down there, and almost just like Ishmael, you're warring with everybody, left and right, and they will serve the Israelites for a long time.
When you look at the blessing that he reiterates, it almost all seems like it relies on the promise of God.
Oh, yeah, and it had to. The words that Isaac says there, God does those things, and he even said, "And you will take off the yoke of your brother," and it happens. Yeah. They will. The Lord took what he said and did it, and gave the blessing to Jacob. Oh yeah, he gave him, took care of him. And well, God told Abraham, and I think he also told Isaac that he would take care of those sons. And he did bless him. He wasn't blessed as well as Jacob. And I'm sure they struggled for a lot of things, but Esau himself was blessed. The nation will not be. They will struggle. Once they get down there and establish themselves, they'll struggle almost their entire existence. And then the Israelites will come, and then it's even worse for them, and they hated them. Of course, we know what they did when they were being chased by the Assyrians. They began to kill them as they were crossing over the river. And so that's when Amos was sent, and God pronounced the punishment that was going to come upon the Edomites for what they did to their brothers.